All right, everyone. Okay, great. So we are starting up the meeting, the open part of the board meeting. And as usual, we'll start it with a presentation about what's going on with introductions, then a presentation about what's going on. So I'm not sure, we're getting feedback from somewhere.
Something. Okay, hold on, guys. Is someone playing a video? Do you have YouTube open?
Yeah, I think I'm playing.
You're broadcasting yourself.
Yeah, that's not what
Yeah,
we want. Okay, cool. Sorry about
good.
that. All right, great. So we're going to be doing introductions of the board members, and then we'll go on into the open part of the board meeting. So my name is Gleb Saporsky. I'm the volunteer president of Intentional Insights. I think most of you know me. I think all of you who are in this video call know me. And that's me. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Hey everyone, I'm Agnes. I'm a co-founder of Intentional Insights, and I'm also a board member. We're here in Columbus, Ohio. And there's also Steve.
He'll introduce himself. He's a big boy.
I'm an ex officio board member due to my position as the treasurer for Intentional Insights.
Any financial questions can be directed to him or to Agnes, who coordinates with him. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who will introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Andrew Berber. Let's see here. I'm relatively new to the board. I live in Santa Cruz, California. I am currently working on a PhD in economics, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. Okay, and finally, last but not least, Alex.
Hello, I'm Alex Weisenfels. I'm also a new board member, the same time as Andrew. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm heading up the Informal coaching project for Intentional Insights.
Cool. Thank you, Alex. Okay, so now time for a brief update. The organization has been doing really quite well in terms of infrastructure building. That's the main thing we've been focusing on in the last month, is building up our infrastructure. So we've established Facebook groups in over a dozen states and
And specifically the Pro-Truth Pledge.
Yes, the Pro-Truth Pledge Facebook groups in over a dozen states, including things like California, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, and so on, and had area organizers. I think we have over 20 area organizers who are starting up their area organizing work to promote the Pro-Truth Pledge in various venues. We've been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work. That has been our major point of focus, to find people who signed the Pro-Truth Pledge. There's a lot of people. I think we have something like 1,700, over 1,750 people who signed the Pro-Truth Pledge, and a number of them have signed up to help, which we have a challenge in porting them over kind of after they signed up to help, to get them connected on Facebook, to Facebook groups, to Google groups, various venues where they can actually do helpful things. So that is kind of a challenge that we're facing and that we're working on. That's one major area of activity, is building up the infrastructure of Pro-Truth Pledge groups throughout the world, throughout the country, and then later throughout the world. We especially want to get expanded to Canada, so that would be really good in the near future. And we are already in Netherlands and elsewhere in Denmark. So that's the one area of work. Another area of work is the Pro-Truth Pledge website. We've been working on that and building it up. And Bentley is who's the chief coordinator. So he is the chair of the Pro-Truth Pledge Central Coordinating Committee, and he is the main developer of the website. He works on that, so he can fill you in on any questions you might have about that. So that's the Pro-Truth Pledge website itself. Now we're also working on doing lots of behind the scenes in stuff in terms of our finances, which will be the topic of the second part of this open board meeting. We are in the red each month, and so we're doing fundraising. It's kind of like we have to trade off efforts and energy, how much energy we put into doing fundraising versus how much energy we put into world impact. And so that's kind of a concern. We're trying to balance that. And we're working on the Intentional Insights website, kind of working to get that up into shape after what was likely a denial of service attack, I think 3-4 weeks ago.
It was in June, the first
Okay.
half of June, it was
First-
down for over 12 hours for
Yeah,
some
so-
unknown reason, and it was very bizarre. So we just launched our website before it was fully ready,
Mhm.
and we're working on security features for that website as well as the Per Truth Pledge. And so stay tuned for that.
So working on that and working on collaborations with some external groups that will hopefully pan out, but we don't know that yet. So those are a bunch of things we'll talk about. So I don't want to talk about the details of finances right now and fundraising. We'll talk about that in the second half of the meeting. But I welcome you to ask any questions that you have right now about anything that I shared here or any other aspects of Intentional Insights activities that you might be curious about. You can feel free to type your questions into the chat box if your microphone doesn't work, or at this stage would be a good opportunity to take off the mute button on your microphone and ask your questions. Please go ahead.
That's okay, take some time to think. Lots of introverts in the group.
Giving people time to think.
I'm looking at them 1 second.
Sure. I'll count down to 3, and if no one takes off their mic from mute or no one starts typing, then we'll move on to the next thing that we want to talk about, which was the Intentional Insights informal coaching group on Facebook that's getting set up. So, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Oh, Alex, can you unmute yourself and please share? Chad asks, are donations only made for the PayPal link? No, we also have a link on the Columbus Foundation website. Currently, the monthly giving option doesn't work there, but it works for all other sorts of donations in terms of one-time donations. And Agnes can chat to you about that later. Chad, thank you for asking that
Thanks,
question.
Chad, good question.
Okay, again, counting down. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to ask Alex to unmute himself and talk about the Informal Coach, the Facebook group for the Informal Coaching Project that's just been set up. Please go ahead, Alex.
Let's see. So there's now a new a Facebook group for coaches and clients and prospective coaches and clients, and anyone who's interested in participating in the Informal Coaching Project, which is supposed to lower the barriers for getting involved, because there's no need for regularly scheduled calls or any, let's see, for prospective coaches, there's also an opportunity to get some experience observing how people address other situations. Just learn from how others do it. So it's a good place to start. So the idea is that with the asynchronous conversations and the ability to see the informal conversations taking place, it'll be easier to build a community because it doesn't require as much logistics or as much experience or commitment. It's a way to dip a toe in.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alex, and please stay unmuted. Folks, Yes, did you have a question?
I just have a quick question. If Alex, you can just say a sentence or two about what the coaching program is, because some folks are kind of new to the organization. Is that something they can benefit? Are you taking new coaching clients? Like, what is this all about? I know you've been working on it for many months.
Well,
And
yeah,
also
so
meetings. Yeah.
the Informal Coaching Project is an intentional insights project where people can volunteer to be informal coaches. And then we have a system where we set up, we basically assign clients, and once we establish an introduction call so that everyone is sure that they're comfortable working with each other, then they just have an ongoing call to work on particular situations that a client might be struggling with. And it is informal, so it doesn't require certification, but we do keep track of people's satisfaction, and we make sure that that everyone knows what the expectations are going in.
Great. So that's just something that right now is available only to volunteers of Intentional Insights.
Volunteers and donors.
Volunteers and donors, that's right. So people who support with their resources of time and or money. And so if you want to improve your skills and address any kind of life areas, so you can get on that with Alex. And cool.
Okay.
Thanks for working on that.
And the Facebook group, again, just informal, kind of, one-time small questions and so on, and lead to longer things.
Yep. So message me on Facebook if you want to get involved.
And as I understand it, you will, after the end of this phone call, post in an insider's Facebook group about this new informal coaching Facebook group.
Right.
Cool. Other people with questions about this informal coaching Facebook group or the project as a whole, please unmute yourself and or chat in the chat box. Three, two, one. Okay, let's go onward. So, our financial situation. I want first to turn over to our treasurer, Steve, who will briefly describe what our typical month and quarter looks like in terms of financial spending, so you understand the kind of financial situation that Intentional Insights is in right now and why we're trying to do what we're doing in terms of fundraising.
Okay, well, essentially we're funded at about 43%, so our revenue through donations and a few other minor avenues account for about 43% of our expenses on average. So through the year to date, not quite to date because I don't have the projections. It's through maybe the first week of July. So we have about $6,300 in funding, almost all of that through donations, and compared to about $14,800 in expenses for the month, most of which are from the virtual assistant work, but there's other accounts that are also fairly significant expenses each month. So, and as we're moving forward with Approach with Pledge, there's anticipating additional expenses there. So I would expect our expenses to grow as the footprint of the Approach with Pledge expands. So definitely funding is an ongoing need, and the goal is really, and Gleb and Agnes can correct me here, but is to have the organization self-sufficient. Because up until fairly recently, Gleb and Agnes have been basically supporting organization, all the expenses, they would come out of their pocket basically and get somewhat reimbursed by donations. And we kind of switched to having all the expenses directly leave, from our Huntington account, our checking account and PayPal accounts, as opposed to just having it coming out of Gleb and Agnes's personal accounts. So we're trying to get the organization to be more self-sufficient, and that's the goal, obviously. So we're not trying to make, we're trying to basically cover expenses each month, and the expenses are, very frugal, and there's not really a dollar that gets spent that isn't necessary to further the activities of the organization. So that's the situation. If you didn't know this, at the Google Drive, there's a folder for finance, and okay, sorry. So for board members, if you haven't looked at what's out there in terms of the financial statements, etc., you're more than welcome to, and direct any questions to myself or Agnes.
Mm-hmm. If you want to personally contact, if you want to direct any questions to Steve personally, I typed his address, financeandintentionalinsights.org, into the chat box.
Yeah. He's our volunteer treasurer and very experienced, so thank you for all the work you do.
Mm-hmm.
And even, we're so frugal that right now he's doing all of this in spreadsheets. So we're using like actual double entry accounting. We don't have anything. So it would be nice to have a little money for that. So we're not.
Yeah, that's not super high.
It's not super high, but yeah.
Yeah, but as we expand out and we have more transactions from more sources, then we really will need to think about efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
That's definitely on the horizon.
Yeah. So to briefly, what Steve was talking about, the ProTruth pledge is that we just recently started offering for all people with financial challenges in the ProTruth pledge, who are volunteers who want to get reimbursements for printing things, for parking, and so on, travel costs, T-shirts, merchandise, tabling, and we set some maximum caps of each of these things that are reasonable within the limits of, reason, like, I don't know, it was like, what, $20 for travel expenses?
Yeah, and like $10 to print all the things out, so that people all over the country who want to volunteer and who want to be leaders and gather signatures, but they can't afford it, so that wouldn't be a barrier. And they can email Steve and kind of send him receipts and get that taken care of, so that, we can move our mission forward, but it costs money to do all this stuff. And so that's like a new expense that we'll start incurring, which will help grow the ProTruth pledge even more. But of course, like, that will be an additional financial need. So it's like a new thing.
Yeah. And another thing that's just come down the pipe is that, I think I've told most of you that I experienced mental illness, and I've had a lot of conflicts with my employer, Ohio State, which has been quite unsupportive of my mental illness and quite discriminatory toward me. And they have decided that they want to basically terminate my contract in a way that's very clearly associated with mental illness stuff. So there's mental illness discrimination. I will not be employed starting from May 2018. And so, we obviously can't afford to spend any more of our money than we currently are donating, like something like $20 a month to Intentional Insights. And
we also have some loans.
Yeah, we have like 20,
loans.
we're offering Intentional Insights a huge interest-free loan and so on. So because of the situation, I mean, it will result in a court case. I'm looking for lawyers, but that's a really ugly and unpleasant situation, which is going to be taking up some of my time and some of Agnes's time, and definitely our money. So we just are not in a position to financially support Intentional Insights at the previous level of support. So we really need to orient toward getting the organization self-sufficient as quickly as possible, because it would not be able to have our support. Yeah, so welcome to ask questions right now. And Chad asks if we have anything in the works to help expand the donations. We have something in the works, yes. So one of the things that we have in the works is that we have one of our board members has offered to do a match for up to $5,000. So anyone who donates money up to $5,000, like the limit that he is willing to go to is $5,000. And so he's supporting that, and any money that is going to be coming in through from mid-September, I think, something like that.
We still haven't set a date, and what we're doing is that, like, for an organization of our size and our small donor base, it's $5,000, taking a long time to raise. So we haven't announced this yet. So we are accepting donations between now and about Labor Day, probably early September. That will go towards this 5,000. But we're not going to make a big announcement until closer to the day when we're mostly there.
Yeah. So I think on Labor Day is when we want to launch. Right?
Yeah, we want to launch it definitely by like start of September, Labor Day, something like that. And at that point, we'll send a big social media thing saying we need to reach $5,000 to get another 5,000. So we'll hope to get 10,000.
Yes.
Total. But anyone who donates right now a one-time gift or a monthly gift, if you donate a monthly gift, it will be matched for a whole year. So if you donate, say, $100 a month, that will count like $1,200 towards the match.
And altogether will be $2,400.
And $2,400 when it's doubled. So that's one of the things we're doing right now. And we did a matching campaign, I think, in the summer, and this is something that we try to do, and we look for some generous donors to put up like this 4-figure amount, like twice a year or something like that. And so we're in the middle of one of these right now to answer Pad's question as one of the things we're doing.
Yeah, this is in the technical terms is that we are in the private stage of the campaign where people are individually being approached about this opportunity, and or semi-private like this conversation. We're not doing like a big email blast. What the research and best practices suggests is that it's really good before doing a mass email blast to have most of the money secured. So having $3,000 to $4,000 secured, and then say that, hey, we need the last 1,000 to push it to the last part of the way. And that gets people who are first-time givers or kind of, motivated, interested, likely to give. So that's kind of what we're trying to work on, the best fundraising practices, and use that to guide us in that field. Thank you for asking, Chad. Okay, other folks, questions about this? Questions about anything in terms of fundraising, finances? This is your opportunity to ask those questions. So Chad asks if we can speak on the March for Democracy. Yeah, sure. So the March for Democracy, that was, we had a conversation with the organizers of the March for Democracy, where the organizer committed to making the Pro-Truth Pledge part of the platform of the March for Democracy, and committing the March for Democracy itself as an organization to the Pro-Truth Pledge. And we confirmed that in email exchanges with the March for Democracy organizers, which are there. Then several days later, we got a notification, we got an email from March for Democracy people that they want to kind of walk back that commitment of making the March for Democracy the Pro-Truth Pledge part of the official asks, and committing the organization of the March for Democracy to the Pro-Truth Pledge itself. And the person said things like, I don't want to be boxed in, and our other partners that may not work with our other partners. So we are decided that our standard for collaborating officially with an organization around the Pro-Truth Pledge is for them to commit to the Pro-Truth Pledge, the organization itself. So we decided that we don't want to be officially collaborating with the March for Democracy as a national, to put the stamp on the March for Democracy. So we didn't want that. But what we are doing is that we are still welcoming people to work with the March for Democracy in their locales and find opportunities to speak at the March for Democracy, but not to say that the Pro-Truth Pledge is an official sponsor of the March for Democracy. But if you can go there, table there, get speaking opportunities there, that would all be great.
And that'll be a great opportunity to get lots of signatures if we can get a turnout of PTP volunteers in the different events. So.
Other questions, comments, ideas for fundraising, financial resource sustainability, stuff like that, all welcome. So if you have questions or comments or anything like that, again, you can type them in the chat window if your microphone doesn't work or something like that, or you can unmute yourself and ask. So I'm going to count down from 5 to see if anyone has chance or thoughts they want to share or questions that they want to ask. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, this was very good, and thank you all for your participation. Is there anyone who has any other questions that are going to, that they want to raise? Anything else? Okay. Thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate you coming in and taking time out of your day to join the open part of the board meeting. It was really great to have you here, and I will speak to many of you later, and other people will speak to each other as well. All right. Bye-bye.